Seth, it is always good to see you. And we actually just said it's good to shoot the shit with each other. So let's shoot the shit. We're going to shoot the shit around podcasting. Thanks for being here. How are you doing?
It's always a pleasure, Mike. It's always a pleasure.
Or is it really?
You've got such energy, and I enjoy a high energy person because I'm a high energy person. I enjoy, similar people like me. So lots of energy. I don't have as much of a big whiteboard behind me. If there's, watch video. Mike's got the big whiteboard. That's like his trademark. But like, other than that, we're high energy people. So yeah, let's talk about podcasting and the do's and don'ts.
What gets you excited about podcasting? Why is podcasting important?
Oh, because radio is dead. Radio is going out the window. No one listens to radio. If anyone listens to radio, it's on Sirius or XM. And that's more of a podcast anyhow, because guess what? You can get every single episode of the shows on a podcast feed. Not only that, it's a great way to brand your business and help your business get out there as a thought leader. If you have a podcast, or if your head honcho, chief bottle washer, gets on other people's podcasts to talk about what they do. It's exposure in the right sense of the word, not exposure where you die from exposure, but it's good exposure. Whereas you start becoming a household name. People start knowing you. Like, oh, you're the podcast mastery guy, or Mike, you're the guy who is in systems and engineering and solutions engineering and all that stuff like we're talking about before the show. And you want to, and having a podcast is your avenue to really talk about what you want. Now, where I come in is helping people get the structure together the right way. Because I've been doing it for 15 years. I've made every mistake in the book. Every mistake in the book. I've started podcasts without having an idea where the hell I was going with it. I've done podcasts where I've had a strict, schedule of where I'm going to put things out. Guess what? When you have a structure, it works. When you don't, it doesn't usually work. You usually have to rejigger it later on and stuff.
Is there an opportunity to create a new podcast?
Oh yeah. Just because someone has an idea and it's out there, you have your own ideas. You have your own take on things. Like I'm sure people talk about solutions and engineering and all that stuff on multiple different podcasts, in the way of revenue and all that stuff. And doesn't mean Mike doesn't have an opinion on that. Mike has a very poignant opinion on that. He has a viewpoint, and people are going to like your viewpoint, or they're not going to like your viewpoint. And those who like your viewpoint are going to come and listen to your viewpoint on a regular basis. But you don't want to just say, you don't want to go out there and start recording and not have a kind of idea of where you want to go in the show. Do you want to have 10 episode season where at 10 episodes you take a break for a few months and then have season 2? What you don't want to do is just say, I'm going to start recording, go 10 episodes and then disappear. Because then people are like, well, that was good. Where did he go? Like, you don't want to ghost people, essentially.
Why do people quit?
Because it's a lot of work if you don't have a system in place. It's a lot of work. If you don't want to do all the editing yourself, which I tell people every time, it's not effing NPR. This is not Terry Gross buttoned up, like we're talking like this. And how are you doing? Oh, someone coughs, we gotta edit that out. No, someone coughs, maybe you can edit that out. But like if it's you want to keep it, honest. And people listen to podcasts because they like people shooting the shit. Two friends talking about podcasting, two friends talking about revenue and solutions engineering and like all that kind of stuff. People like to listen to people that they like, and they feel like they want to be part of the conversation versus listening to a radio show.
It's one of the biggest mistakes or things that I wish I would have done differently back when we launched the podcast. And I launched the podcast. I said pardon me, Mike and I launched the podcast back in 2016 with the help of Jody Mayberry. Jody helped us and got us off the ground and got things set up. And Jody was our co-host for a number of years. The thing that I wish I would have done differently is not edited or really reduce the amount of edits. Because I didn't realize until I started doing my own editing and looking at it, how often I say the word or how
but no one hears it. But no one hears it unless you. It's not.
So then the next piece I learned, and the other thing I struggle with is breath work. So it's like now, as we're getting into allergy season, what'll end up happening is I'll have really deep breaths that will come across. And it bothers me when I hear it. And like I'm holding my breath right now as I'm talking about a slightly different microphone than when I usually am when we do the podcast. But the thing about it, the thing to lean into for those who are uncomfortable, and I wish I would have been more comfortable with this at the beginning, is be natural. Because when you have the conversation with someone and they meet you in person, you're going to breathe. You're going to do all of those things. And if there's a disconnect, say that again.
Everyone breathes.
Everyone breathes.
Natural.
It's natural.
It's natural.
If there's a disconnect between the experience, when they finally meet you in person, then on their brain, there's going to be this lack of confidence, lack of trust. Or on the flip side, and this is where I go with it, is when people meet me in person, they know this is how I sound. This is what I look like. It's all
and you breathe.
Like all of that kind of stuff. Actually breathe, right? Yeah. So get over your own stuff when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And it's hard to do. And I usually, like with my clients, I usually say, let's have 4 or 5 sessions. You're not going to use them all. You're not going to use them all up at once. The first session is the longest, kind of talking about the cadence and how many episodes you want a month. Or, I always say do at least 1 a month.
Okay.
Because if not, you get rusty. I usually say even do 2 a month, like 1 a month with a bonus episode. Like when you pop in, you have a short little episode about something that happened in whatever you're talking about. Like, so you have like the big episode and you have a small episode.
Yeah.
And that way you kind of get into a flow and get comfortable on the mic. You get comfortable talking to other people on interviews. It gets better. I mean, everyone's first episode. I mean, Mike, if you go back to your first episode, I'm sure it sucked.
Oh yeah. Oh shit. Heck, most of my episodes suck. Like it's just there's an iteration. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How do you help people overcome the challenge of wanting it to be perfect rather than just going in and getting started? Like, what does that look like from your?
A lot of encouragement, a lot of saying that this is not effing NPR. Get over yourself, and telling people, like, for the first 10 episodes, most people are not going to even know it exists. You share it out, people will listen to it, listen to maybe half of it, whatever, depending on the amount of time you have the show on for. I mean, the duration, there's the word. And when you think about it, you need to just get over yourself. Literally, you're not the best thing since sliced bread. You're Joe Schmo, puts the same pants on like everyone else does. You have some knowledge to share and share it. Get out of your own way.
What about iteration and changing? Like how comfortable are you with the whole idea of the show might start off with this focus, but then change into this focus and then maybe even become this over time?
Pivot, every time I say pivot, I think of Friends. Pivot! But, the pivot episode. But like literally, I've pivoted episodes. Entrepreneur's Enigma was me pontificating into my phone for the first 10 episodes. Those don't exist online anymore, or so I think. I think whatever you put online is out there somewhere, but they're hard to find. So my episode starts at episode 11 with an interview podcast because that's what I'm most comfortable with. I'm comfortable being interviewed. I'm more comfortable doing the interviewing because I'm a former journalist. It never leaves you. And so episode 11 became episode 1. And now I'm on 267 episodes. Now, even with this most current show, I still made a mistake when I realized at 100 episodes, I should have taken a break, made that the first season. I'm still on season 1. I'm on season 1. I have 275, 77, whatever the hell number episodes I have. And now at 200, do I stop the season and take a break? No, because now you're at a point where the next season can't be 10 episodes. If you had a 275 episode season, you can't have a 10 episode season as well. Like you kind of make things kind of similar a little bit. Unless you do a major pivot, like Digital Marketing Dive was an interview podcast I did for a while. Now we're doing me and a co-host just talking about stuff. So a complete format change. That's when I said, we're doing 1 a month and we're doing 10 episodes because we started two months into the year. We're doing pretty much one a month for the rest of the year. And then we're taking a break. But we made it known that this is what's going to happen. We're not going to just disappear after 10 episodes.
What what are some of the, actually, we'll just go a little bit deeper on that one. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you've got a couple of different podcasts that all have different purposes, may serve audiences slightly differently. Is that fair?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're definitely different. Digital Marketing Dive was not the first one. I've had countless podcasts.
Yeah.
But it was of the ones that are currently active. Digital Marketing Dive was like, I think it started in 2018 to go to hiatus for 2 years. And I made my own mistake. I just turned it off after season 3 and put it on hiatus. I eventually decided, all right, I have to tell people that we're on hiatus. Made a critical episode saying, hey, we're on hiatus. We'll be back soon. Back soon took 2 years to get back to it when I decided the format's going to change completely. But Entrepreneur's Enigma, because then Entrepreneur's Enigma snuck up behind it in 2001. And I got more into that, me being the host. I only have to schedule with myself and the guest, not schedule with me, the co-host, and the guest. A lot more moving parts there. So that's the reason why the format changed with Digital Marketing Dive now. It's just me and the co-host. It's 1-to-1, 2 people scheduling, that's it. Not a third person, because the third wheel is hard to do.
So let's talk about structure and just getting set up. Like if someone wants to get started, what are the first 3 steps if you want to get started with podcasting?
Get a good microphone. Not that expensive, but get a good microphone, get good headphones, and then just use, for the time being, use Zoom. Like we're using Zoom right now. Nothing's wrong with Zoom. People are like, oh, Zoom's not as good as Riverside. Honestly, Zoom works. Don't break the bank on your podcast. There's a lot of times people are listening to this on audio, so no one's going to see, like Mike's hair, his little gray wisps are glistening in the quality of the Zoom. Like no one needs to know that. And I also say add a 4th one in there. Start with audio. Master audio before you go into video. This video is a whole nother ball game.
What do you mean video is a whole nother ball game?
Because then you got to figure out where you're going to put it. Because a lot of podcast hosts don't let you put your video up there. It's all audio, and podcasts are predominantly audio. And now with YouTube, you put all the videos up on YouTube. You put the clips out that you clipped out from the video talk out through Opus Clip or whatever, and they give you some good little clips. Yeah. And then you put them out on social media. But when you think about it, editing a video together has been predominantly really hard to do until something like Descript came along. And as long as you're fine with the jump cuts, you can edit it, and there are some jump cuts and whatever. But if it's a big gap, you can go find it in the text, delete it, and then you export the video that way. And there you have your edited video. But until then, until you're comfortable with Descript, stick to audio. This is easier.
Yeah. And start. Like when you start,
just start.
It's hard. It's hard. You can't reflect on what you're going to do. You have to go in it and do it. Get some experience.
So honestly, just start with a semblance of a plan.
Yeah. What goes into a plan? What goes into a plan? What goes into a podcast plan?
Well, your cadence of episodes.
Okay.
So how many are you going to put out?
Yep.
A month. I usually say keep within a month. So it's going to be one a month in a bonus, twice weekly or fortnightly, whatever they say in England, fortnightly, whatever, weekly. And I dare to say some people do daily. And daily is insane. Daily, like you have to work your way up to that. And you have to make sure that you have sponsors and all that stuff that you want to support you to do the daily, because it's daily and it's time consuming, and it's taking time for something else you should be doing possibly.
You mentioned a couple of different tools. You mentioned Descript. You mentioned Opus Clips. Those are tools that we use, right? And that's part of what has been improved the speed at which we're able to publish content. The human in the loop still gets in the way, meaning sometimes
we get in the way all the time
on it. How important is it to keep that consistent cadence when putting a podcast out there?
Oh, it's extremely important, because people are going to come to expect, if you're going to say you're going to do a weekly podcast, unless you announce on the blog part of your podcast website or in social media, hey, I'm taking a week off, people are forgiving. But like, if you're doing like one off here and another one off there and another one off there, like no one knows what to expect. And a lot of times you say, well, if you want to do it that way, you have to say, subscribe to my podcast. Don't just come pop in, because there's no rhyme or reason to it. And I actually have 3 podcasts now. And I have one where I'm testing the waters with, whenever I actually feel like it kind of podcast. But it has to do with podcast mastery, my podcast coaching program. So when I'm passionate about something, I want to scream at the wind and say, don't do this. I go on that podcast and say, don't do this. So there's no cadence to that per se. And I'm using that as a test to see how that works versus having a cadence and having a structure. Because you have to kind of always be the guinea pig.
What kind of data are you looking at as you go through the test? Like, what kind of data are you looking at to determine whether or not the test is working? Or
I'm looking at the basic stats. Any podcast platform worth its salt is going to have some basic stats: the listeners, the streams, which the downloads. How many people are hitting the site? So basic analytics. How many people are hitting the site? And just going to look at that versus the other sites, the other podcasts, and say, well, this one, it just started, so take that into account, versus when it's been around for a while. But then look at week to week, saying, well, I put out 2 podcast master episodes that are 4 minutes each this week versus my 20 30 minute Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. It's apples and oranges, but you can still kind of see, like, is willy-nilly working or is something more structured working? So far, structured works a lot better.
Yeah, so you hit on a couple of things on the importance of consistency,
Yes.
having a cadence. What else do you need to add into the planning aspect of building out a podcast?
You need to know who you're talking to. It's kind of like duh, but you kind of have to have an ICP or ideal ILP, ideal listener profile or persona, because you kind of have to say, like, this is for business owners who run small businesses that want to talk about this topic every month. So yeah, see, clearly I triggered something because Mike's writing something down.
You did.
But literally you have to kind of know who you're talking to. Otherwise you're just talking, and sometimes that works. Not always. Most of the time you need to kind of have a general idea of who your avatar is.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a bit. Like what is an ideal listener profile? Like how do you think about building out that avatar?
It really, it's different for everybody. I know that's not the kind of answer that any interviewer wants to hear. It's different for everybody. But the ideal avatar is someone who you want to talk to. If you want to come into your podcast saying, oh, Mike's really smart, I want to then say, oh, what's Mike do? Oh, Mike, I can hire Mike to do X, Y, Z. And that's what you really want to think about is, who do you want to talk to and who wants to listen to talk to you? And it's also your ideal guest profile too, IGP, if we go in acronyms, of who you want to have on your show as well. How's that going to work out for you? The Entrepreneurs Enigma alone has just been a catalyst, no pun, that pun kind of intended, a catalyst for me to reach out to people who I would not normally have a reason to talk to. Like Guy Kawasaki I had on the show, which was a real fun thing to have. He's first Apple evangelist, a big marketer. He's marketed Canva. He's the evangelist for Canva. He's written like 15, 20 marketing books. The guy's insane. It's awesome. So I had a reason to reach out and say, hey, I'd love to have you on the show. He said, sure. Everyone loves to talk about themselves.
What about, how do you kind of distinguish between that whole idea of, do I want it to be a guest show where I bring guests on and have conversation with them versus do I want it to be a solo show where I want to share information, or do I want it to be host and co-host back and forth? Like, how do you think about those options? And maybe there's another one to even think about too.
Yeah, or doing a hybrid of all of that. Sometimes you have a hybrid of having a guest and having a pontification show, then having a guest and having. A lot of times I'll say to people, have a guest on once a month, and then have your bonus just be you sharing knowledge.
Yeah,
I like that. I tend to feel like that works really well. But really, it has to do with how you feel and what you want to do, how you want to approach it. Do you want to have other people talking about themselves, or do you want to share your knowledge? And are people going to find you boring after a while of only you talking? And then do you want to do a hybrid where you're doing some talking head and some 2 people talking?
What about starting out as a guest on podcasts? Is that a good way to Just kind of dip your toe in the water. Okay.
It's a great way because then you can test how other formats work.
Yeah.
You could say, oh, I liked how Mike did his show. I like how he did the intro, like, hey, Seth, how's it going? A very leisurely kind of, hey, it's good to talk to you kind of. That kind of intro, and picking up on different cadences and different ways people do it. Then you can apply it to your own show later on, saying, "Hey, I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that." And also, I know people who don't have their own show; they're just on everyone else's shows. And there's places like Podmatch, it's like a dating app for podcasters and podcast guests. It's a little spammy, but so is every dating app out there. But it's like you kind of pitch yourself to you set. And my big rule is self-pitch yourself. Take the moment, come up with a generic, well-written generic pitch for yourself. And then for each person, edit it a little bit to what their show is. So it's a customized generic pitch, which is kind of an oxymoron, customized generic, but it's exactly what it is. Customized and generic. You customize a little bit of the genericity of it. So that's a word.
It's tailored. You tailor it.
Tailored, that's the word.
You tailor it for a specific group, and then there's context. Do you ever get those requests from people who don't send their own pitches? Do you ever get requests from some of these pitch companies?
Yeah. Oh yeah. My rule now, I have a 90-10 rule. 90% of the time, if you have a company pitching you, I'm just going to archive it. I'm not, or delete it. I'm not going to look at it.
Yeah.
If it's flips and you pitch yourself, it's the 90-10 flips. It's 90% chance that you might get on the show versus 10% not getting on the show.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, someone pitches me really well from a PR firm to get on the show. That's that other 10% on the first half.
What are some of the common mistakes you see people make when using those pitch groups? And we could go really deep on this one.
Oh, we could really on this one.
But like, what are some of the things? What are some of the mistakes that you see people make when working with PR firms to pitch them on podcasts?
Because the PR firm is listening to the show, or they should be listening to the show, but the guest never listens to the show. So the guest has no idea what the hell is going to go on when they go on the show. And I'm like, did you listen? They're like, no, my PR firm did. And that's that doesn't work for me. Like, you have to do your own homework, even if you get someone to pitch you. That I say, sure, I'll have them on, and I'll say, please have them listen to a few episodes. And they're like, can you send? They always say, can you send the questions ahead of time? I'm like, absolutely not. If you want to know, number one, I don't do it as a journalism ethics thing, and number two, I don't want it to be staccato, like it's reading the answers. And number two, I don't know where the hell half these conversations go, because I've been a journalist, so I'm classically trained to interview people. I literally just go into it blind. I have 3 questions. I know what the person does, but I literally go in there saying, let's talk. We have a conversation for 15, 20 minutes. Then I have my 3 questions I ask at the end. And if they want to ask 3 questions, guess what? They're on every freaking episode. So if you listened, you find out, oh, these ask these 3 questions every time. I can be ready for them. And one's a doozy that everyone's like, and you won't go that way. If you ever listen to a show, you'll be more prepared for that question. And it's not a bad, hard-hitting, Barbara Walters is going to pin you down, make you look like a fool question. It's just a thought-provoking question that I like to ask. And if one more person asks me that the most important thing they carry with them all the time is a phone, I'm going to scream. Because that's the question.
Say it again.
What is the most important thing to carry with you all the time? And they always say, my phone. And I'm like, they don't always. Sometimes people go real woo-woo, and I love those. But some people go, my phone. And I'm like, okay. More please. Like, why your phone? And sometimes they save it and they go into it and they say, this is why, and they go woo-woo on their phone, and why the phone is something that's like metaphysical. It's very weird. It's a weird question. If you're not prepped for it, it's like, I love seeing people come up with some people come out, go so deep on it, and I'm like karma. And I'm like, explain, and they go for 5 minutes on why it's karma. It's like, wow, that's gold. Yeah.
It is shocking to me. And I really shouldn't be shocked by this anymore, but it still is shocking to me. The number of people who request to be on the podcast who have never listened to the podcast, but they're certain that they or the person they're representing will be an amazing guest and will provide amazing value to your audience.
And they're prepared to talk about these 3 things. Yeah. And then none of them apply to your damn show. And I'm like, nope.
What, and even if they do apply to the show, the ball's on someone to think like, hey, I'm going to knock on your door and come into your house and have a conversation with you and your family at the dinner table just because I've got something interesting to share. And we think that that's a good thing. And here's the reality. The reality is you have access to all of the content that's ever been on the show. And you can go through and do this thing. The one thing that you can do that will get you on the show without fail, listen to an episode, share what you thought was really interesting, and discuss how you applied it to your work and what change happened. Listen, share, do, and relate it back. And if you do that, I will make space for you to be on the show because you've demonstrated an ability to do the work, not waste people's time. The worst podcast interviews I've had. Actually, what do you think about that process? Like, is that realistic to ask for?
I think, yeah, that's when it's 90-10 in the favor of the guest.
Yeah.
It's still, that might not be the right fit, it might not be the right time, but they also go into a pitches folder where I will go back when I need somebody and pull it up. They won't get deleted. I love that.
Yeah. So it's amazing that people won't do that little bit of work. And
you can go while you do the dishes, for crying out loud. That's the beauty of audio. It's passive. You can while you're driving, don't listen to rock and roll for that 20 minutes. Listen to the podcast. I mean, don't take notes while you drive, but pay attention to what you're doing, but you can still listen to 1 or 2 episodes.
Well, and when you do it, you can kind of realize, hey, is that the kind of conversation I want to get involved with? Because I can tell you some of the worst podcast guests that I've had on, and I've had a handful of them on. I'm okay at helping to sort and filter these folks out a little bit better. But the one that drives me nuts is the one where the depth of their knowledge is limited to what they wrote in a book. So they want to keep coming back to those talking points. And I think we've talked about this before where, yes, there's some PR training that happens where you'll be guided to always bring it back and do that.
Yeah.
There's 8 million other podcast episodes that go on and do that. If you're coming on this one, be ready to be asked a couple of questions where you might pause and say, you know what? I didn't think of it that way. And that's okay. And ask questions back. There's a style. And I think that's the part of the point I wanted to make with that bit is there's fit everywhere, whether it's ideal listener profile, ideal guest profile. You don't need to manufacture fit just for the sake of doing.
Do your research and make sure. Remember, a lot of us went to college, or at least maybe through high school, where you had to do your research for a paper. Do the same thing. You might be a little rusty, but it's good for your noodle.
What goes into research?
Reading or listening. I mean, literally, the break down to the fundamentals. It's doing the work. It's your brain's a muscle. Sit down, listen to a show, read the transcript if you can't listen at that time. Get a transcript, download the MP3, put it in Cast Magic or something like that. Get the transcript and read it if you want to read it. Do whatever is best for your brain chemistry. But be prepared for the show. People are come on my show, they're and afterwards that was great. I was not expecting that. I'm like, you weren't expecting that? If you listen to any of my shows, they're all over the place for a reason. I come in saying, I know the general gist of who this person is, but I want there to be a natural flow. The worst guest I ever had, I'm not gonna mention names, was one word answer to Larry. And his name wasn't Larry, but one word answer to Larry, where he was like, yes, no, yes, I do that. And I'm like, give me something here, buddy. Because I don't like to edit. I've actually written afterwards, you give me 1 order answers. I can't. There's nothing good here. And I'm sorry I'm sorry that I wasted 30 minutes of your time. I take it on myself, the onus on myself saying, I'm sorry I wasted your time. I can't use this. I don't want to say you wasted my time, damn it. I don't want to say that, even though they did. But, I'll fall on the grenade and to say, I can't use this. Or crap. The audio came through really crappy. Which often, one word answer, Larry, his audio sucks too because he didn't get headphones or a good microphone or anything like that either.
So I have a bad habit. I don't like to wear headphones, and I
you have a good
know.
microphone.
Say that again.
You have a good microphone that makes the reverb, the reversal not happen.
So why are headphones important? And I know you said I have a good microphone, which helps make it so that I can avoid some of that. But why are headphones important?
So that when I'm talking to you, your speakers aren't then repeating it back to me through your microphone.
Yep.
Nothing's worse than that echo. It's like the worst thing ever. And now more and more these tools have echo cancellation, and that helps. But every once in a while that dulls down the audio quality because it's busy fighting against echo. So it's kind of it's hit or miss. Like I don't ever have our echo cancellation on because I have a mixer. I have all this stuff that kind of keeps things. And I also have a microphone that the dog could be barking like right over there. This thing will not pick it up. It's literally like a cone.
Yeah, and my audio might sound a little bit different on this episode. And the reason is because I'm using my lav mic instead of my primary podcast mic. And the reason I'm doing that is because for whatever reason, my computer is acting up. So have a backup plan.
Always have a backup
through
plan.
This stuff. Because I didn't want to have to cancel on Seth today. He's like, oh, your audio sounds good. Sounds better on this microphone than it did on my Mac microphone. Would sound even better on this A.T.S microphone, but you don't
What's
need.
shocking is Mac inbuilt-in microphones are really freaking good.
Yes.
And literally sometimes that's it. That's what you need. You need headphones and a good mic and your Mac microphone. If you're doing that, you definitely want to have headphones because the speaker and the mic are too close to each other.
Yeah.
You've got to do something about that.
And when you do that, you'll notice one thing with the Mac, especially with some of the updated microphones that they've got on their new tech. When you turn away from the machine, your audio will disappear. So when you find a good place to do it, stay in that place. Why? Really find
put an X on the floor. Put an X on the floor.
So why would I put an X on the floor?
So you know where to stand.
Okay. Why is that important?
So that when you turn your head, you don't sound like this. So it's a good marker. So like if you found the sweet spot with your MacBook or your Macintosh or your PC, and you're able to know that if I stand right here, it's going to sound awesome. But if I stand slightly off, literally get masking tape. Don't do duct tape. As much as guys love duct tape, don't use duct tape. Put masking tape on the floor and stand there.
What are some other tips that people can be aware of? Quick ones that people can be aware of when just getting started out, whether it's as a guest or as a host. You want to start podcasting, put an X on the floor. What else?
Breathe. It's something simple. And you said that you hold your breath as you talk sometimes. If you breathe, you make a conscious effort to take a moment and just breathe. And it's hard for me because I'm a Philadelphian and I talk really freaking fast.
Yeah.
But if you take a moment, worst that happens in post, you can edit it. You can pull that back a little bit. You take a deep breath. You took a deep breath. Your body needed a breath then. Nothing wrong with it a little. And sometimes it actually adds to the je ne sais quoi of the show. Like, you're like, how you doing? Pause, pause, pause. Good. I'm doing great. Like that is so breathe is a big one. Another thing is knowing when the show is done. And this is not a hint to you, Mike, at all, or anything like that, as I say it. But knowing when the show's done, also having a plan for knowing what your audience is going to want to listen to. My shows are 20 to 30 minutes long. 30 minutes on the long end if it's someone who's like, I can't shut them up and their stuff's so good that I don't want to shut them up. I've had a few on there that have been like, I got like a word in edgewise maybe every 15 minutes. The guy went for 36 minutes. I'm like, I don't care. This is gold. He's a venture capitalist and he was giving all this great knowledge to startups. And I was like, he just needs to keep going. But then I had a lawyer once who went on for 45 minutes and never finished his story. And I was like, he was a good friend of mine, so I still put the episode out, but that was a hard edit. That was a very hard edit. But plan to have your shows, as much as you have a cadence for how many episodes you're going to put out a week, have a cadence for how long your shows are going to be. Mine's as long as an American commute. An average American commute is around 20 to 30 minutes to get to work. you can get an episode in and feel accomplished and go to your work. Or you get, or it's a half of that, or it's downstairs. Like I walk downstairs to the basement every day. I can get maybe 3 minutes of a podcast going in that, but it's not an average American commute. So,
What makes a good story?
ooh, that's a good one. It's that number one, having a story to tell, knowing where you're going with the story, knowing how to bring it back around to finish the damn story. And I mean, yeah, tangents are great. Sometimes tangents are great as long as you finish the tangent and get back to the story. And I'm terrible at this. My tangents can go off into left field and they're great sometimes, but then I forget where the hell the story was. And I'm like, so watch the tangents. But what makes a good story is something that is captivating to someone that they want to listen to, and tailor the story to what the podcast is and the topic of the podcast, what you're going to talk about. They might start with the lawyer that never finished his stories, or the startup founder who went on forever but has knowledge bombs left and right. Those are small little stories that people are like, oh, I get it now. So
It is one of the things that I've gotten a bit better with as far as being concise with some of those stories after taking on editing of the podcast on my own. So as much as there's value in sending it out to be edited, I've heard the post-production version of it. So I was like, wow, that sounds pretty smart. And then didn't realize how much rambling or other things I was doing until I actually started listening to it on my own. So from a mastery perspective, a recommendation I would make is test first on your side, listen, and it's going to be so hard. You're going to listen, you're going to hear your voice, depending on how you've listened to your voice before, you're going to hear your voice and it's going to sound completely different than it sounds inside your head.
And all the time.
Yeah. And over time, what will end up happening is then it'll start to feel natural where your voice sounds the same to you in your head.
Still hasn't does.
It still happens.
I'm 43 and I still think I sound like an idiot on audio. Or
You
what
do.
sounds in my head. Oh,
You
thank
do.
you, bud.
But and that's just that's the reinforcement. No, you don't.
No,
and that's the.
I know I don't, but I know you were just joking, but I'm like, I know I don't, but the voice in my head does not sound the same.
Yeah.
And it never will to me.
So one of the things to do, and I know you say it never will, one of the things that I think started doing it for me a little bit, and it's gotten in the way as I've gotten a little bit older, which is now just kind of giving ourselves crap as we go through it. And that's part of the mastery thing, right? You're learning throughout the process. I listen to versions of the podcast at 1.5 speed. So I hear myself talking at a much faster speed than I talk. And I talk fast as it is anyway. And so know the environment that you're listening to things in and that you're testing things in, and get comfortable with the testing, because over time, your voice will evolve. And you'll find your flow. You'll find what you're comfortable with pausing. Go ahead.
Yeah, like my voice might always sound kind of weird to me. My flow has gotten so much better. The more I talk, because I was a newspaper journalist.
Okay.
And I was a journalist. So I remember the broadsheets. And so I never was on camera or anything like that to get used to that. So when I went into podcasting, which my editor's like, when I left the newspaper, he's like, you should go on radio. And I'm like, you heard this voice? I found that my cadence has gotten better as I talk more and more on the shows, and I put the reps in, and that's why I work with my clients. I said, put the reps in, and I say, still publish the first episode, even if it sucks, because you're gonna go back and listen to it and say, wow, that sucked. But that's where I came from. This is where I am, and there's still gonna be great knowledge in the first episode. This audio might be off. My first episode of Digital Marketing Die was in an echoey room that I could not get the echo out of. And I was like, oh. And this is after like 10 years of doing podcasts. And I was like, I thought our mics were working. I was on, they weren't working because we were on the computer mics, reverb. Oh God, it's god awful. But what we talked about for an hour was so good that I didn't want to go back and redo it because it won't be as good the second time. And so I put a little bumper in the front saying, guys, this is going to be hard to listen to. I'm sorry, but give it a chance if you want to hear some good tips on XYZ. I don't remember what it was. I just remember the conversation was really meaty.
Early days in the podcast. It was podcast episode number 65, and we're up to like 440-ish right now, depending on when this one goes. The Donald Miller was on the podcast.
Ooh.
And so it was when Building a Story brand first launched, the book.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. He went through the SB7. It was phenomenal. I had the wrong mic on my side, and the audio is just crap on my side. And there have been times where I've been tempted, hey, to put it back through. And actually now with the way that editing is going,
You can put
tools,
Studio Sound.
I could probably put it back through in Studio Sound. That would clean it up. But it is the most downloaded episode, and the audio is off. And Donald was perfect from a professional perspective. He made things very, very clear throughout the process. He was going to record audio on his side. He took that audio and sent it into our editor, and our editor had his clean audio and had mine. The cool thing about it is there are so many different levels to this game, which gets into the mastery.
People are forgiving too. People are also forgiving.
Well, so a couple of mistakes I made, and I had a little nightmare just a second ago. I had to double check to make sure I was recording. It was. Have you ever done an episode where you thought you were recording, but you weren't?
Yeah. And that's when you have to re-record. And sometimes it turns out halfway decent, but it's never the same spark as the first one.
So I had to do that where I had to call somebody up after doing it and saying, hey, we did the entire thing and it didn't hit record. So have a checklist too, as you go through this stuff. Checklist to check your mic, checklist to check make sure you're listening for their audio. Because I know if Seth's audio sounds a little bit different than a studio level audio, I know that maybe his microphone is not on. And sometimes that can happen, and they could be on a different microphone
all the time. Everyone does different programs. You're using Zoom. Some people, I use Squadcast. People use Riverside. And every time you go in, as a guest, you should check your settings too, because it might not know about my mixer. And my microphone goes through my mixer, then out to things. It is a USB mic, but I use the bigger XLR, that's the word. XLR word instead, because it sounds better, and I find minutely. Don't go out and spend $1,000 on an XLR microphone and all that stuff. I mean, I didn't spend $1,000, but like, you don't need it. You can use a USB mic. A Yeti is good enough to start off with. It just sounds just as good. When you listen to enough of podcasts as I do, a little bit is nice. I'm not quite a vinyl geek with audiophile like that, but good mic helps.
So we've covered a lot. We've covered a couple of different things like do's and don'ts, some things around storytelling, how to just get started, all of those pieces. Let's get into podcast mastery.
Yes.
Podcast mastery, why coaching? How do people work with you?
So podcast mastery came about when I do a lot of things on Alignable, which is a network for small businesses. Okay. But everyone and their grandmother does digital marketing as a whole. Not well necessarily, but differentiating yourself is hard. But no one was doing podcast coaching per se. And I'm like, well, I've been podcasting for years now. At this point, 15 years. I've made all the mistakes in the book. I've done a lot of good stuff too in the process. How can I make it so that I can share my knowledge? And my joke that I tell everyone is I'm more expensive than a shrink, less expensive than a mid-price lawyer. And I got to smile. I always pause. I look for the smile or the giggle. My wife thinks I'm a dork for saying that. Everyone else likes that saying. Because what I say is that like a basic shrink is around $150 an hour. I'm $250 an hour. A mid-price lawyer is around $350 an hour. I usually suggest let's do at least 2 sessions. If you do 4, I give the 5th one for free because why not? At that point, we're best friends. We're having a great time. I'll throw our 5th session for free. They run from 45 to an hour, depending on how tired we are after the 45-minute mark. If we're both falling asleep because we're done talking, we stop then. But I always make it sure that it gets to 45. I record the calls. I give transcripts. I have worksheets for people. And the idea is I want to share my knowledge in a logical way. And it's kind of funny because I'm a very illogical, scatterbrained guy. But it's helped me, being this scatterbrained ADHD guy that I am, focus in on how can I coach myself to then coach other people and how to make the best out of their podcast or their podcast guest.
And if you've ever worked with a coach, you understand how much value there is behind what Seth has just described. If you've never worked with a coach, Seth has made this very accessible, where you go through and you can say, just ask yourself this question. What's the cost of making 4 hours of mistakes on your end? And how would you work the math on that end? And you can come through and work through the math, and you can say, well, you know what, 4 hours of mistakes would ultimately cost me this. And then use that to help justify the investment on the other side. It might be 4 hours, it might be 10 hours, it might be whatever. But
hopefully it's not 10 hours. Hopefully you realize before 10 hours that you need some help.
Yeah.
10 hours is that's a long amount of time. 10 hours it's pretty much a good portion of your day.
And it's okay to ask for help. Everybody needs help.
Everyone needs help.
It's all part of this mastery piece. You master things by learning, thinking, and taking action. And keep that loop going through. And doing that with a coach like Seth, who can help you, guide you along, help you avoid failure, help you improve success, which gets into that SB7 type stuff, the role of the guide in that process. You can really accomplish some amazing things. Seth, where can people find out more about what you're working on? Where do you want them to connect up with you directly?
I would go right to podcastmastery.coach, not .com, .coach, because apparently you can get .coach now. It made sense. Podcast Mastery Coach. So there's a dot between the mastery and the coach. And you can always just find me social at social.sethgoldstein.me. It literally has everything. It's a really long link tree.
If you know of somebody who would find value in this episode, in this discussion, please share it with them. Let Seth and I know via LinkedIn, Twitter, any of the social medias that you're out there.
I'm everywhere.
Sales is a thinking process. Business is a thinking process. Life is a thinking process. How are you thinking different about yours?